Hey everyone, and welcome back to Becoming Ultimate Masters. Today we're going to do a deep dive into something that I think is going to be super relevant to all of you. And I'm especially thinking about our high school students and our young adults listening out there.
Mm.
Have you ever heard of the placebo effect?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people haven't, but the idea is that, you can experience real changes just because you believe that something is true, even if it isn't.
Okay.
So it's like the classic example is like taking a sugar pill,
Right.
but you feel better
Oh.
because you think it's actual medicine.
It sounds pretty wild,
It
right?
is.
Is that really possible?
It is. It's unbelievable.
Okay, so then what if I told you that this whole placebo effect thing shows that we might actually have more control over our health and our lives than we think?
It's a really profound idea.
Let's dive into some stories because I've heard some crazy stories about this that sound almost too unbelievable to be true.
Yeah, for sure. So back in the 1970s, there was a man named Sam Lond, and he was misdiagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer.
Oh.
And sadly, he passed away shortly after the diagnosis. But when they did the autopsy, they found that he never actually had cancer at all.
So you're telling me that he believed that he was dying
Mm.
and that actually had a physical impact on him even though the diagnosis was wrong?
Exactly. It really makes you think about, the power of our thoughts and our beliefs.
Yes, for sure.
And, there's kind of a contrasting case to that, which is of Mr. Wright, who had lymphoma, and he was part of a study. And they gave him this new drug called Krebbiozin.
Hmm.
And his tumors, they were shrinking, dramatically. He was feeling amazing. He felt like a brand new man.
So everything was working.
Yeah, he was doing great.
So I'm guessing there's a catch here.
There is a catch. So it turned out that this Krebbiozin was actually a placebo.
Oh, wow.
And when Mr. Wright found that out, his tumor started growing again almost immediately.
So his belief in the treatment was a key part of his recovery.
Exactly.
It's like our minds have a direct line to our physical bodies.
It's a really powerful connection.
Okay, so these stories are pretty crazy, but I'm sure there's more.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of examples.
Like whales.
There's this case of a woman named Schoenfeld, and she had struggled with really severe depression for decades.
Oh, wow.
And she finally found some relief when she participated in a clinical trial for a new antidepressant.
Okay.
But it turned out that she was actually taking a placebo the whole time.
Wait a minute. So a sugar pill helped someone with chronic depression.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
Well, they did brain scans on her, and they actually found that her brainwave patterns had changed. The area of her brain that's associated with depression was actually showing increased activity. And it wasn't just, subjective. It was measurable physical evidence of this placebo effect.
Okay, you officially have my attention, but how does believing in something actually create these changes in our bodies? What is the science behind this whole thing?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
So one of the key factors is this idea of conditioning.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Pavlov's dogs? Okay, so they learned to salivate at the sound of a bell
Right.
because they associated it with food.
Huh.
So our bodies can actually learn in a similar way. They can be conditioned to respond to certain cues based on repeated experiences.
So are you saying that if I believe in something strongly enough, even if it's not real, my body might start to respond accordingly?
That's the idea. Our bodies are incredibly adaptable,
Okay.
and the placebo effect is a perfect example of that.
But there's got to be more to it than just conditioning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What else is going on?
So another really important factor is the power of expectation.
What do you mean by that?
So think about chemo patients.
Okay.
A lot of them experience nausea even before the treatment begins.
Right.
Just because they're anticipating it.
Makes sense.
So their brains have already linked, chemo with feeling sick.
So just expecting something can trigger a physical response.
Exactly. Our brains don't always distinguish between what's real and what we believe to be real, especially when, strong emotions are involved.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we've got conditioning, we've got expectation.
Yeah.
Are there any other pieces to this puzzle?
Yeah. So the third piece that I think is really essential is meaning.
Okay.
So the way we interpret and understand an experience can dramatically impact how it affects us.
Okay.
So for example, have you ever heard of voodoo curses?
Yeah, we're getting a little spooky now.
It is a little spooky, but just think about it for a second.
Okay.
Some people who believe they've been cursed actually experience real physical symptoms. Even declining health and science can't explain it, but their interpretation of the curse becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. So you're saying that our thoughts, our beliefs, and even our interpretations can shape our reality in some pretty powerful ways.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
really quite remarkable.
Yeah, this has blown my mind a little bit.
It's really amazing to think that our beliefs can actually have an impact on things beyond our physical health.
Yeah, I mean, if we can use this power in other areas of our lives, how do we actually tap into it? What does that look like?
Well, there's this thing called neuroplasticity. It's pretty cool.
Okay, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, so it basically means that our brains are not fixed.
Okay.
They can change and adapt throughout our entire lives.
So we're not stuck with the same brain wiring forever. That's a relief.
That's right. Every time we learn something new or try a new skill, even just think a new thought, we're actually creating new pathways in our brains.
So if our thoughts can actually reshape our brains, does that mean we can intentionally rewire ourselves for like success or happiness?
You got it. The more we engage in thoughts, behaviors, and activities that support our goals, the stronger those neural pathways become.
So it's like working out a muscle.
Exactly. The more you use it, the stronger it
I
gets.
like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but what about our genes? Well, don't they play a role in who we are and what we're capable of?
Of course, but that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, how so?
So there's this field called epigenetics that studies how our choices in our environment can actually switch genes on or off.
Wait a minute, so our choices can influence our genes?
It's kind of mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so think of it like this. Our genes are like a light switch.
Yeah.
And our beliefs and our thoughts are a big part of what flips that switch.
Mm.
So if you really truly believe you can achieve something, you might actually be creating the right conditions for your genes to support that goal.
This is crazy. I'm seriously starting to see the world in a whole new way. I mean, this means we're not just products of our circumstances or our genetics.
Exactly.
We actually have a lot more control than we think.
That's the power of the placebo effect. It's all about shifting from a mindset of limitation to a mindset of possibility.
Okay, this is incredibly inspiring, but how do we actually use this placebo power in our everyday lives? Like, what are some practical tips that our listeners can use to make this real?
Well, the first step is awareness. Just start paying attention to your thoughts and your self-talk. What are you telling yourself, about your abilities and your future?
So, like, if I catch myself thinking I'm terrible at math, I should stop and question that thought.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have any evidence to support this belief? You know, a lot of times we're carrying around these limiting beliefs that we've picked up along the way, but they don't actually serve us.
It's like we need to weed out the negative thoughts and plant positive ones in their place.
I love that analogy.
Okay, so once we've identified those limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
how do we actually start replacing them with more empowering ones?
Well, affirmations can be a great tool, but the key is to not just repeat them mindlessly. You have to really feel them and embody them and believe them.
So instead of just saying, I am confident, I could visualize myself acting confidently in a specific situation, like giving a presentation or talking to someone I admire.
Precisely, the more senses you involve, the more powerful it becomes because your brain doesn't always distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one.
So if I visualize myself giving an amazing presentation, my brain starts to build the connections for confidence in public speaking, even before I step on stage.
It's like mental rehearsal for success.
I like it.
And speaking of rehearsal, another powerful technique is to mentally walk through the steps of achieving a specific goal.
Oh, so like if I'm nervous about a job interview, I could mentally rehearse myself answering questions confidently and making a great impression.
Exactly. The more you practice this mental rehearsal, the more prepared and confident you'll feel in the real situation.
This is really making me think about how I approach challenges. It's like we're programming our subconscious minds for success.
You're becoming the programmer of your own reality.
This is pretty amazing.
It is.
All right, welcome back to Becoming Ultimate Masters. We've been on this deep dive into the placebo effect, and it's been pretty mind-blowing so far.
I know it's incredible to think that our beliefs can really have that much of an impact on our physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, and the thing is, anyone can learn to harness this power, right?
Absolutely.
But I think some of our listeners might be wondering, like, okay, this is all great, but how do I actually apply this in my own life?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Especially thinking about our young adults and our high school students out there who are facing all sorts of new challenges and opportunities.
You know, it's one thing to understand the concept, but putting it into practice is really where the magic happens.
Okay, so let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
Let's give our listeners some actionable takeaways.
Okay, so first and foremost, remember that it all starts with awareness.
Okay.
Pay attention to the thoughts that are running through your mind, like what stories are you telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of?
So if I'm constantly thinking, I'm not good enough, or I'll never be able to do that, that's a sign that I need to start paying closer attention to my self-talk.
Exactly. Those negative thoughts can really sabotage your dreams.
Okay, but how do we actually break free from those negative thought patterns?
Hmm.
I mean, it's so easy to get stuck in a rut.
Well, one powerful technique is to try to reframe those thoughts. So instead of saying, I'm terrible at math, you could try saying, I'm learning to get better at math.
So it's all about shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It's like we're changing the script in our minds.
Yeah, you're not the victim. You're the hero of your own story.
I like that.
And whenever you catch yourself thinking a negative thought challenge,
Okay.
ask yourself, is this really true? Is there any evidence to support this belief? Because often those negative thoughts are based on old fears or past experiences that don't reflect our current reality.
Yeah, they don't define us anymore.
Right. And, instead of focusing on those negative thoughts, focus on the positive evidence.
Yeah.
Think about times when you've succeeded, overcome challenges, or surprised yourself with your abilities.
Like make a highlight reel of our best moments.
Exactly. And the more you focus on those positive examples, the more you'll start to believe in yourself and your potential.
Because our brains are wired to look for evidence to support our beliefs.
Yeah.
So we need to feed it the good stuff.
Exact.
And it's not just our thoughts, it's also about the information we're consuming and the people we surround ourselves with, right?
Absolutely. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, support your dreams, and challenge you to grow.
Yeah, it's all about creating an environment that nourishes our growth.
That's a great way to put it.
I am so inspired to start applying all of this in my own life. This has been such a great conversation.
Me too. It's really exciting stuff.
It is. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It was my pleasure.
And for our listeners out there who want to go even deeper into this and learn more about how to harness the power of the placebo effect, we've got some resources for you.
Yeah, definitely check out our website at www.ultimatemasters.org/coaching.
Or you can WhatsApp us at +256 771324119.
We've got a whole team of coaches there who are ready to support you on your journey to becoming the ultimate master of your own life.
And don't forget to subscribe to Becoming Ultimate Masters and share this episode with your friends, your family, anyone who could benefit from this message.
We want everyone to know that they have the potential to create an extraordinary life.
And by understanding and harnessing the power of the placebo effect, you can tap into that potential that's already within you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
We'll be back tomorrow with another inspiring episode. Until then, keep believing in yourselves, keep striving for greatness, and keep becoming the best versions of yourselves.
See you then.
See you tomorrow.